All right. Welcome back, everybody, to National Blind Sports Week presented by Healthy Vision Association. Whew, man, it's been quite a busy week already. We see all the posts that everyone's putting up. Thank you guys all for using those hashtags. Hashtag Blind Sports Day, hashtag Blind Sports Week. Thank you everyone for tuning in and engaging with us on Monday for our Paralympic panel. Yesterday for our goalball panel. That was an awesome discussion that Kevin led with Coach Keith Young and Coach Jake Chakowski. Whew, man. But I'm your host, Kyle Coon, back with you today, Wednesday, which we're calling Team Tethered Together Day, and we'll mention a little bit more about that later in the day. But really, what today is all about is we're celebrating, those of us that are blind or visually impaired. It's pretty obvious we can't see sometimes at all. Sometimes we just can't see very, very well, and so what we need is, or it at least is a huge help. We need a pair of eyes that can help us, guide us along, whether we're running, walking, hiking, just being fit and active. And I'll be honest, like it's just running or being active on your own. Sometimes it can be all right, sometimes it can be fun, but it is so much more fun and way more rewarding when you got someone that's right alongside you, sharing in every step of your journey. And I'm really excited to be joined by a very, very well-known runner. A lot of people in the running world know this guy. I met him, what has it been, like 4 or 5 years ago now, and we continue to run into each other. We continue to run in the same circles, but we still haven't run together. But we are looking to change that here coming up in just over a month at the United States Association of Blind Athletes Marathon National Championships. My buddy, my friend, is going to be my guide. Scott Jurek, I want to go ahead and just welcome you to the USABA Facebook Live. How's it going, man?
It's going well. Thank you, Kyle. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone. I know some of us have gotten a chance to meet each other, and it's a wonderful community, and really looking forward to, even if it's virtually here right now, but really looking forward to running together, Kyle, because it's kind of funny. We've definitely crossed paths a bunch throughout the years, and it's always fun when I get to actually run with some of these individuals I get to meet. And yeah, the VI community is phenomenal. Can't say enough about it.
Awesome stuff, man. Yeah. So, I mean, look, man, you are honestly probably one of the most humble guys I've ever met. But we are going to ask you to, not necessarily brag on not brag on yourself, but let's let a few people that may not, be so entrenched in the running community get to know you a little bit. So can you just briefly tell us, like, what's your story? Like, how did you get into running, and how long have you been a runner and a professional runner, and like, just tell us just hit a few highlights of some of the adventures that you've done.
Sure. I think, to start off, those who haven't read my book, Eat and Run, or haven't read North, may not know a little bit, but I was a reluctant runner. I kind of just was not one of these people. So for those, whether you're visually impaired or whether you're sighted and you're out there listening to this, I was one of those people who just really kind of gave running the cold shoulder quite a bit. Even in middle school, when the cross country coach was like, "Oh, we want you to come out," and I would place second at the school district little annual, competition that they'd have for fourth and fifth and sixth graders. And I was always second place. And he was just really bummed I wasn't going out for cross country in junior high. And it, yeah, it was one of those things. I just didn't really love it. I dabbled a little bit in some milers as a kid, but I was a hunting and fishing boy from northern Minnesota and really didn't fall into love with running until I started running on the trails and getting ready for cross country ski season. And that was where I guess things kind of clicked more in terms of like, okay, I'm doing it to stay in shape, kind of like it, but not quite. And then one summer, our high school cross country ski coach was like, you've got to run, bike, or rollerblade throughout the summer to stay in shape. And I couldn't afford rollerblades, didn't have a nice bike or any type of bike. I was still riding an old BMX bike that my dad had cobbled together, and didn't have roller skis. And so my only option was running. And I just started out my door and heading out, first it was like a mile and turn around after 1 mile. So I'd get 2 miles in and then go out another 1.5 miles from my house and 2 miles and 3 miles. And before the end of the summer, I was going out 4.5 miles one way and then 4.5 miles back. And again, I didn't grow up in a family where endurance sports were prevalent, but we always spent a lot of time outside. And I think it was the trail running that really hit home. And when I started ski racing, and spending time out in the woods on dry land training and running with ski poles, that's when things really kind of hit, and got inspired by a few wacky characters. I won't ruin the rest of the story, but surrounding, people with, and that's, whether you're tuning in to get a little inspiration here today, you're somebody maybe who's like, oh, I kind of get out and walk, or I kind of do something for fitness. But as you mentioned, being National Blind Sports Week, I think it's important to like surround yourself by people that are going to give you that little extra nudge or push. And that's kind of what happened with me. I really was not somebody like, running is not something I enjoy. And then it really just hit. And I think it was surrounding myself with these individuals that kind of just gave me a little bit more of a nudge. Buddies like my buddy Hippie Dan, who ran in blue jeans, like would show up at these cross country trail races, and just characters like that I never had been exposed to. So I think that's what's it's about community. It's about those individuals who inspire you to get out the door, and I think that's where guiding comes into play.
Yeah. So like how like all right. So I'm gonna be honest with our viewers here. Like I'm kind of using this as I'm throwing you on the grill, man. I'm going to be trusting you, guiding me in a half marathon coming up in a little over a month. Like I got to know all about you. Like how did you get into guiding? Like what, like, was it something that popped up on your radar, or like tell us all how does a ultra successful trail runner, dude get into helping guide, blind dudes around, blind dudes and gals around for,
I know, well,
for like up to half marathons or marathons or something like that. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it was interesting. One of my first experiences was I had a couple of runners locally here tell me, hey, we're starting this chapter of Achilles International in Boulder, and we're going out for group runs. And we have, I think there was maybe like a handful of visually impaired athletes at the time, walkers and runners, and they'd have maybe 4 to 6 show up, and they're like, hey, you should come out and join. And so my friend Adam Mayer, he was like, hey, just come on out and check things out. And so again, I'm somebody who loves to be on the trails, but I've run a lot of road marathons, road half marathons, road 100Ks, 50 miles. Like I just have not been as like, oh, I only run trails. So for me, I think I was at the point in my career, and those are familiar with it. Like I've won so many races in the ultra scene. One thing that it was really, I guess, stayed with me throughout ultra running is volunteering at races and helping out and just being part of the community and giving back. And rather than just giving back, like just giving. And so when Adam got me out for a couple of those Achilles International, he's like, hey, we have somebody in the Boulder run here, Luann, and she needs a guide. And so I was like, sure. And those of you familiar with Luann's resume, she's got, she ran cross country at CU, I believe. She, puts down these crazy times, and it was a little daunting at first to be like, oh, I'm going to guide a couple times, just get a little practice. And then right away I'm stepping into Boulder, with 50,000 people around me. Nothing at all like a trail race, but I'd been in big city marathons before, but I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go for it. And it was just such a great experience. It was only, a 10K. That's what the Boulder is for those who aren't familiar with the race, but it has a huge amount of participants. It's one of the biggest 10Ks in the country. And after I'd done that, I got a message on Twitter from, I'm blanking on his name right now, and he'll have to forgive me for this, but he was in charge of MAVI at the time. So Massachusetts Association for Blind and Visually Impaired individuals. And he actually just tweeted a direct message to me saying like, hey, I saw that you're going to Boston and I saw you guide a little bit, earlier last year. Like, would you at all be interested in being involved in guiding runners? And I didn't actually have a bib for the race or wasn't running, but I was out there for Cliff Bar at the time. And I said, I should just go for this. And so I did a super long run the day before and got my training in, because those of you, again, who are familiar with my career, I went on to do the Appalachian Trail speed record in 2015 later after Boston that year. And so I was training. So I did a big long run, 2 days before. And then my first, guiding a marathon experience was guiding the full marathon solo. And I got Thomas Panek, who you might be familiar, those who are in the VI community. Amazing individual and does a ton of work with guiding eyes. He's just super inspiring. So yeah, it was one of like the best experiences I've had running any type of race, guiding Thomas that first marathon. So that's how it all unfolded. It was kind of just on a whim and like, oh, you look like you could handle this. And I think my ultra running pacing and crewing background helps a little bit too, because ultra runners often pace a runner for the second half of a 100-miler. So you'll be allowed to have a person accompany your runner after 50, 60 miles into a 100-mile race. So I feel like it really was like one of those things where I was well trained for it, even though I didn't have a lot of experience. So so those of you who are thinking like, oh, I don't think I could do this. I literally had guided once or twice, or I think 2 times before I had guided somebody in a full marathon, including something like Boston.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I didn't realize that that Thomas was the first one that you had guided in like that in a full marathon. Because like I do remember, like I remember reading in your book North, like there was a point when you're on the Appalachian Trail and you like I think it was from your wife's perspective at the time. Like she pulls around the corner and you're sitting there wearing a guide running vest on the side of the trail with Thomas, and she's like, what's going on? You're like, oh yeah, Thomas wanted to come out and join us for a few miles on the trail. I was like,
yeah, it was
like you're in the middle of trying to set a speed record. Like what was going through your head there where you're like, I'm gonna guide a blind dude on some trails for a few miles now.
Yeah, well, those that want to get more of that story, North tells all those stories. And I think one thing, about being on the Appalachian Trail, I let so many people run with me, encourage people like, hey, you can run. Like some people ran 10 miles with me, 5 miles, 3 miles. Some people did 20 plus miles. I had one guy who had just was recovering from leukemia, who was like, I want to run 50K with you. And so when Thomas had let Jenny and Jenny knew, but it was funny. She was like, well, you have a guide vest on. And like, cause we were running through Bear Mountain State Park and we crossed a couple roads, and, Thomas wanted things to be official. Like, hey, we want people to see that you're guiding so I don't get, run over, or we don't get run over right on the roads. And, but it was pretty funny. Like here I am out in the middle of Bear Mountain State Park on the Appalachian Trail, trying to set a speed record. But I think that experience was all about, setting a speed record, but I let people join me. And when Thomas said, hey, I really want to run with you. And he had some other guides too. So I think I did 5K or so. I did 3 miles, which was quite a bit, on the trails.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
I had never really guided a whole lot on the trail, but at that time I was just like, okay, hey, Thomas wants to run with me. Like, it really gave me this perspective where for the rest of the journey, all the way up New England, after, getting through the mid-Atlantic states and going all the way up to Maine, every time I thought about like, oh, this hurts, or, oh, I've got, this type of injury or this type of pain, or, oh, why am I doing this to myself? I just thought about my experience with Thomas or all those individuals who told me their stories along the way. And it was really special to be able to do that. So yeah, I've had some interesting guiding opportunities, and I would say besides my first guiding experience in Boston with Thomas, guiding him on the Appalachian Trail was amazing. But yeah, it's like one of those things when a buddy or friend or somebody said, "Hey, I really want to run with you," I couldn't say no, even though it's trying to set a speed record here.
That's awesome. So I'm trying to remember the number of times, but I think you first guided, like you're going to be guiding me at CIM coming up in, first weekend of December. And I think this will be what your third or fourth time guiding at CIM.
I think
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, fourth, maybe even fifth. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Yeah, I think it's probably because we met, last year that they weren't held. So yeah, it might. Right. I've been there almost every year since 2017, I think, or 2016. I forget. But yeah, I've had some different experiences for sure there. And yeah, I've tried to make it a regular thing, if it's not every year, every other year. So it might be my fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's an event you come out for, and like, it seems like you put it on your calendar. What makes running that event in particular kind of, so special to you?
Well, I think it's part of, I think, a celebration for me, and a way of not, again, just, giving back, but just celebrating the visually impaired community. And, it is a championship event, but people are out there, doing a relay. They're out, walk, running, combination of it's not all about the fast guys and gals and those that are competing, but I think it's more of that celebration for me. I've put it on the calendar, and I'm always like, when it comes around late summer, early fall. In fact, I just exchanged texts with Richard Hunter today, reminding me that I have a few things to do from the registration standpoint. I'm always like, hey, Richard, I'm committed. Like, put me with whoever. I'll be ready for a sub 3 minute or 3 hour pace for the marathon. So like, anything around that range, but anything faster than sub 3 hour, you're gonna have to give me a little bit more notice, because I'll just work a lot harder on the roads. But and some years I've guided, half marathon. Last time I was there, I had an amazing run with Richard. Richard and I had never run together, besides maybe doing like a little training run here and there. And so to have the opportunity to guide him, and I guided him for the full marathon. So I still have my streak on when it comes to marathons. I've been a solo guider. I've been the only guide, in which, for those who are listening, you don't have to necessarily do that, but a little bit more pressure when you're the only guide. It's like when you're not feeling maybe the greatest, even though you might be running at a pace that ideally is slower than what you're used to when you're guiding, because it's a huge energy draw and what your output is like. But that was amazing, because Richard and I had never run. He's like, hey, I've got everything covered. He's like, let's, you and I run. So it's an amazing event. Yeah. And I think, like I said, it's a celebration. It's like coming together with the visually impaired community, and Richard does an amazing job. The dinner, I really just, the whole weekend, I hang out with the visually impaired crew. Like, it's like, I know I should be probably like mixing it up and maybe run the race hard myself one year, but enjoyed it. Yeah. Even when my daughter was like less than she was like, I think 6 months old. My wife ran, and like we handed her off to grandparents, and I made it back to relieve them, after the half pacing Matt Rombach. So it's such a special event for me, and it's always on my calendar. And if I can fit it in, I try to get out there.
That's awesome, man. Like, man. And like, so I've got tons of questions, and like, we're going to continue chatting, but I did want to go ahead and throw it out there to our Facebook live audience. If you guys do have questions for Scott, as as he and I are chatting, please drop them in the comments, and we'll periodically revisit, and we'll get producer extraordinaire Bill Kellick to read those off to us. But one of the things that I'm always interested to get guides' perspectives on, Scott, is that, like, look, you guys, you're putting yourself out there, and there are people out there that that think, I would really love to to get into guide running. But like I'm nervous that I'm nervous about putting myself out there, or I'm nervous that I'm not going to be fast enough for these blind runners and all of that. Like what advice do you have, or like what can you say to some of those sighted guides out there that might be just a little bit nervous about getting into the VI community, or dipping their toe into guide running or something like that?
Well, first off, I would say is the visually impaired community. I've never met someone who would like totally go off on you if you didn't guide properly or something happened. Like, I mean, I've had experiences, where people have tripped or like no serious injuries, but like, they're just, they're such resilient souls and people that I don't think, you should ever worry, because they're just, I mean, I've always felt this, is that all of these people are gracious that there are sighted guides that are willing to help out. So I think first and foremost, I'm not saying like, don't do your homework, don't be prepared, or like don't get out and do a few guided experiences before you dip into something like my experience. But I like to go big, as a lot of people know, but you don't have to do that. So I think, gradually getting accustomed to being comfortable, getting out for some short runs before you do a half marathon or a full marathon. And I think the other thing is, I think, look at it as like the fears you had when you first started running, when you first did your first, 10K, 5K, your first half marathon, your first marathon, because, it's the same kind of fear. Like, oh, how am I, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? And it's the same kind of thing. And I think if you just kind of draw back on your experiences as somebody who's a runner, and even if you're a new runner, you might say, well, I've only been running for a year, or I've only been running for 2 years, but I really want to do this. Don't let that hold you back, because it's much like any the first time you laced up your shoes, or you ran barefoot, or whatever you did to get out the door and start running, or start walking, is that, it's very similar to that. And once you just kind of let your nerves kind of calm down a little bit, and just understand like this is a gift that you're given to share in this experience. And it's no different than, I think, pacing a runner in a 100-mile ultramarathon to going out for a run with a friend. That's the way I look at it, is I'm going out for a run with a friend, even if I've never met this person. The first time I met Thomas was literally the day before Boston. We went for a little shakeout run of 2 miles. And, sometimes that's how it happens. And sometimes, especially at the USABA marathon championships, a lot of times, the guides don't get to meet their runner until the day before or 2 days before, and they might get a little shakeout run in, sometimes not. So I think it's, that's that comfort level. And ideally, sure, it's great if you can, run with that person consistent, and they live in your town or your city or wherever you happen to live. But which I think is super cool with United in Stride is doing, is linking up runners in the local community. But a lot of times, your guiding duties are, across the country or at some event that you might not have gotten a chance to do that.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, dude, just I tell people all the time, I mean, and you said it so eloquently. I mean, look, all you're doing is going out and running with a friend. And that's, man, I don't know how else to put it. But
besides the fact you get out for potholes and cracks, there's a curve and all that stuff.
Minor details. Come on. But yeah, let's go ahead and quickly talk about that. So like when you're running and when you're running by yourself, and then like when you're running guiding someone, what are the major differences, or like how do you change the way you run based on who you're guiding, or do you what kind of goes through your head when you're guiding versus when you're running on your own?
Yeah, I think it's similar where so those folks who've never done this before, and those who are visually impaired runners who are getting sighted guides for the first time or getting comfortable with them, I think what helps a lot is pace, and especially when you're running with like when I've paced or guided sub 3 hour marathoners, pace is very important, because you want to make sure that you're not, because I know when I was running with Matt, he's played with some of the watches that, give, through the earbuds or, via
Sure.
like an Apple Watch where it's got a microphone on it and it shouts out the pace, but sometimes you don't hear it at the right time or you're not as focused. But the pace is really important because you want to run your basically your VI runner's pace and their type of race. So I think that's, try not to get too bogged down in it, but know that you're running at their pace versus, getting locked into your pace. And so that sometimes is hard for individuals. The other piece of the puzzle is really thinking of yourself as you're basically a second set of eyes for a lot of individuals. Well, for anyone you're guiding in, some have more vision than others. I've had an opportunity to run with those that are, almost, fully blind to individuals that can see out of in a certain zone, and they don't have peripheral vision. Some that have, a very small amount of vision, but it's super, that window is really narrow and tight. So it's really interesting how you break that down. But for a lot of the individuals, really finding out like what feedback do they need. And for me, I'm thinking of all the things that I take for granted, like the cracks on the road that I kind of just, might see last minute. I'm scanning things in front of me, 15, 20, 30 feet. While at the same time, and this is, I think, a major boost if you can do that. It's maybe graduate level guiding is to really give people your runner, visually impaired runner, what is happening around them. And I try to give them that sight that we all take for granted of like, hey, there's people all lined up here along Wellesley. And I would tell Thomas, like, stick out your hand right now. You're going to get like high five all these like college girls from Wellesley right now. And it's things like that I think if you can like tell them like, oh, it's just anything that they can't take in via sound or smell, proprioception with their feet is, I think, just the incredible, the gift of sight that you're giving. So yeah, it's all about like the cracks and the things that could get your runner hung up and have an issue or like navigating around other runners. You've got to be giving them feedback of like, hey, it's really tight here. When I guided Thomas in New York City Marathon, probably one of the toughest guiding jobs I've had. I was so worked after that because my brain was just like on like major pilot, like Uber pilot mode. And I was just like, wow, like I'm so fried. Like you never get out of the crowds where we started. It was just like we were wall to wall people the whole time of like, weaving in and out of people. And you just have to really be hyper aware of like what you're doing. And you have to also think besides pace sometimes is, how do I get around this person up ahead? And like, sometimes you don't have enough time, but you literally are just nudging, if you're tethered to your runner, and I've done both tethered and non-tethered, which I think non-tethered sometimes a little harder because you're like trusting like, okay, is this person going to be able to pick up my cues quick enough? But when you're super close to somebody, you can almost just, your VI runner, you can nudge them because when it's super tight in some of these races, you don't have time to be like, okay, there's a runner 2 feet in front of you, boom, like it's just, like one time I remember Thomas, like I couldn't give him feedback enough about like some of the hazards out there. And I would just literally like, nudge them and pull them, tug it, like just kind of guide them right and left because it was just so rough. Like I wasn't pulling him, to aid in his assistance, of any sort, right. But just giving that feedback quick right and left, because again, you just don't have much time. But yeah. I think the thing to remember too with your visually impaired runners, their proprioception is so like, that's why they make such great trail runners if they can avoid the major issues. Like trail running is a whole nother level. When I guided, when I've guided on the trails, it is so hard. You can't call out every rock or every route out there on some terrain. So you just have to know that your VI runner is very adept with their ankle, foot, and knee and lower extremity proprioception. And just the ability for them to know where their body is in space is super fine-tuned because they do it so much on a daily basis. So I think that's a little confidence boost too. Like, don't freak out. Like, again, I've missed so many like just hazards on the road because a lot of times you can't always call them out quick enough, especially other people. And a lot of times in these big city marathons, it's the other people you got to watch out for, other runners out there.
Sure. Have you guided primarily with a hand tether or a waist tether or like, and as a guide, what is your preferred, method of guiding? Um,
Yeah, I've done it all. I mean, even in my short span, and I'm not like a 20-year veteran of guiding,
sure.
like some people out there, but in the last, 6 years that I've guided, I've done a little bit of everything. I mean, Kyle
Okay.
Rubidoux, he, on the trails, he'll actually like, touch my shoulder, for instance. And
Yep.
Thomas was doing this too, where, they just kind of touch your shoulder and know they can feel little movements of like you shifting over right and left if you can't call things. And so
Yep.
I would say like my preferred, especially when I'm running roads and marathons, I do a lot of like the hand tether and just with a
Yep.
couple of fingers, 2 or 3 fingers in a loop. So those who aren't familiar, a lot of times a tether will be this piece of webbing that might be an inch wide, and it's a lot shorter. Like originally I thought this tether would be a lot longer, and you're like tight with that runner. I remember my first time guiding Thomas at Boston for running a marathon. My bicep and my forearm was so sore because when Thomas would swing, I would sometimes not be out of the way, and he just like nail me with his elbow every time. I never told him this till the end of the race, and we talked about it. I was like, Thomas, I'm gonna be black and blue tomorrow. I'm gonna be so sore because you're pretty tight with the runner, and I think that hand tether is really, it's just a way of giving quick feedback in a marathon setting that can be super helpful. And I like that if my runners are comfortable with that. But then I've also done no tether for those that do have a limited sight uh, zone where they can actually see things. And sometimes that vision is really good when things are close, but too close to like again cause issues. I think Matt Romback, he was his vision is one where he runs into like photographers on ladders, out on the course a lot of times. His major obstacles have been things where he doesn't see them until he's like right up on them.
Mhm.
He's hit certain things, and when you're running at 7-minute pace, that's a serious thing. Anybody who's hit something, even just walking with their head or a low branch or something like that. So
Yep.
it's interesting. So I've kind of done it all, and I feel like the hand tether is a really cool way to be connected with your runner and be able to give quick feedback besides visual cues.
Nice.
Or
Nice.
verbal cues. I should say verbal cues.
Yeah.
Visual cues about the verbal, or verbal cues about visual stimuli.
There you go. There you go. Oh man. Let's go ahead and check in with Bill. Bill, have we had any comments or any questions roll in for Scott since we've been live?
Yeah, we do have one, Scott. We have one
Awesome.
from Katie Ann, who wants to know, when you find yourself in an especially low moment on the trail, what do you do to pull yourself out of it?
Oh, and this is, I think, relating it to guiding as well as somebody who's just, out there who has full vision. I think one of the biggest things for me has been finding a way to, I guess, draw on past experiences. I do a lot of reminding myself of like, okay, I got through this type of really hard experience on the trail, on the roads, in training, in races, and just remind myself of like, okay, I know things have the potential to turn around. I've got to stick with it. I've got to keep grinding away. Just keep embracing the suck, or like, again, it's not pretty always. Sometimes I'm like everyone else where I'm just like, oh, this sucks. Why am I doing this to myself? But I try not to get in that zone too much. Just have little pity parties, but then cut them off. And I think that's really important. I think as well, it's important to remind yourself, like I mentioned earlier, when I was on the AT, I constantly thought about Thomas, being like, Thomas can't see, and I'm out here complaining about, certain things about, I have vision. Or I would think about my mom, who wasn't able to walk most of her adult life on her own. And it's one of those things where I think, drawing upon, mantras, drawing upon, other people who have struggled, are struggling, and know that, hey, we're out there, we're trying to have fun. Ideally, I know it's hard work, and there's a lot of times where all of us who do endurance sports, it can be tough, but I think remind yourself that, we're out there trying to get the most out of our bodies, our minds, and our soul. And it's hard to do that sometimes, but draw on those past experiences, use those mantras, my buddy David Horton, Horty, in my book North. Those of you who've gotten a taste of him, he has a saying which is a total, like, I don't know, these, it's like a double negative or triple negative. It doesn't really, but it does make sense, because he always says it doesn't always, oh wait, it never always gets worse, is what he says. So at some point, things turn around.
That's a really good point. He's right and he's wrong, and
I know.
he's right again.
And but he can say it out the yeah. It was hard for me to say it, because sometimes I'm like, wait, is this what I'm supposed to be saying? Because it doesn't really, it makes sense, but it doesn't. And he's right, but he's not right. And I guess when things are really bad, a lot of times they don't always get bad. But I've had things go south and go continually south for a while, but there is a point when things will get better. And I think you got to remind yourself in that. And I think that's very true in life. Those of us who do endurance sports, or those who have not, they read the stories, they watch inspiring films and documentaries, and it's just like, you got to put yourself out in that arena. And we have to be in those situations where things are rough and things don't seem like they're going to get better. And we come out of those experiences with, I feel like, some of the best gifts we could ever get.
That's so awesome, man.
That's including guiding. So, although guiding is, I talked to some buddies who have been guiding for way longer than I have, and they're just like, it's always amazing. Like, again, you can't really complain when you're with a visually impaired runner, because you're just like, I can't say anything right now, and it just like puts a whole different spin on things. So. Thank you for that question. No, that's a great question. So I guess I'm sorry, I forget the name who sent that question in, but get into some guiding, and then you'll know that'll be another experience you can draw on.
I actually think I know the person that sent in that question, and I think she's expressed interest before. So I think we're slowly recruiting more and more people to the old party, Scott.
Awesome.
So I mean, and look, it's not just we, number one, I mean, like, we as I as a blind runner, like, I'm so grateful and thankful for all the guides that I have, and about to you and I are about to dive into this and finally run together. So I'm pumped and excited about that. But it's also there's also there's a lot of people that are blind or visually impaired out there that are a little nervous about getting out the door and reaching out to people to ask, hey, can you guide me? And I experienced this with some other with some of my guides in the past, where like I go back and forth in my head. I'm like, oh man, do I, like, this guy's a pretty big name in the running or triathlon world. Do I reach out? Like, are they gonna want to run with me? Like what do you say to those those people that are blind or visually impaired that are sitting here thinking, oh man, I'm hearing Scott Jurek, Western States winner and Appalachian Trail record holder and all this, he's guiding, but like, oh man, like I'm just starting, like what do you say to those people that might be a little nervous about reaching out to a sighted guide?
From my experience, from all the stories that I've heard from eventual friends of the visually impaired community and those within, I think it is hard, and I don't want to make it sound like, oh yeah, it's such a party out there, we just have a blast, and like, you got to start somewhere. And I totally sympathize with those that, because again, I've spent a lot of time with blind and visually impaired individuals, and my mother, her eyesight was affected a bit with multiple sclerosis, and then got more and more affected. And it's a really hard place to be in, especially when you're losing your sight, whether it's, at the peak of your youth or your teenage years or your young adult years, which a lot of times is when, disease affects individuals, or if you've lost it later in life. Like, it's hard to get out of the funk of, being, and I can't speak to this other than that. I just know, like, it's hard when you're depressed or you're feeling like, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't, like, the trust component really is hard for people to get into. But I think what I would say is that you never really have to work, because again, whether it's blindness or visually impaired, like and I hate to use the word disability because I'm not a fan of it. Like, I just feel like we're all able-bodied in certain ways, and so I hate using that word. But never let that hold you back, because most people, I feel like it breaks down the barriers of like what it's like to be a human, in terms of trusting people, in terms of helping people, and I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts in the sport of running. Because runners are pretty low key. I know the triathlete scene and the cycling scene, they can get it. I mean, nothing against. I have buddies that have raced throughout years, but they'll even say, like, yeah, it's pretty aggro out there in terms of the cycling scene. But like the running community, for the most part, like, and that's what I love about, that whole guiding experience. And so for those visually impaired runners out there, or those visually impaired individuals, are like, hey, I just need somebody I want to go out and walk with somebody. I want to go and exercise or do something, even at the gym. Like, I would say, like, it's one of those things where it breaks down the barriers of like people feeling like, oh, I have to help this person. I mean, all of a sudden, like, things melt away and being like, hell yeah, I'm going to help you because I'm a human being and I want to do something for somebody else. And I think that's something that people, whether you're a guide or whether you're an individual needing help, it breaks down a barrier and just lets people be human beings. And I think that's one of the gifts of, if there could be a gift in blindness, which, it's terrible when people lose such a critical sense like vision. But I would say, like, just like, try to like find that in you, in terms of like just opening up that door of trust, and don't feel like you're being a burden. Don't feel like you're asking too much. And if you want to go run with somebody that you think, oh, they would never run with me, you better ask them. Like, because I bet they'll say yes. And it's hard to, I mean, look at me. You just use the example of Thomas on the Appalachian. It's hard to say no to, hard to say no to somebody. And whether I'd known Thomas or not, if somebody had said like, hey, I'm a visually impaired runner, I know you've guided, like, can I run with you? I mean, again, it'd be hard to say no. And I think that's what's so cool about the experience. So I guess that would be my 2 cents is, I don't know exactly what it's like to be in those shoes, but I know it's hard. But just getting out and doing short little outings, trusting people, and also just, not feeling like a burden, like just doing it in a real basic way initially and simple. It doesn't have to be hardcore, so that, again, you just feel more comfortable to get out there, because it's hard. I mean, I think you might know a stat better than I, but I was talking to Kyle Rubidoux, like, I mean, it's a very low percentage of the blind, visually impaired community that exercises or gets out. Oh, yeah. And it's hard to, I mean, I was talking to Thomas, who runs Guiding Eyes and trains guide dogs. Like, some visually impaired blind individuals, it's hard for them to even get a guide dog. Like, they just don't want to get help. So I just encourage you to hopefully let that go enough, and let that trust of like, you need a little bit of help. And it's amazing. It's like you said, we're just going for a run, and we're friends, or we're running buddies, running partners. You don't even have to be tight friends. You could just be, hey, Jill or Jack shows up at my door and runs with me on Tuesday morning at whatever time. And, eventually you probably become friends, but like, totally, you don't have to be, super, great friends after that. But it's that community experience for that hour, 45 minutes, half hour, whatever happens.
So awesome. Yeah. So it's actually, that's a pretty nice segue into kind of what, something that I wanted to kind of, let people in on, and know what kind of the next step for what we're going to be doing here at USABA is. And we've danced around it a little bit. We hinted at it with the title of this day being Team Tethered Together. But because I mean, look, guys, we've talked a lot about community, we've talked about friends, but really what a blind and a blind runner and a sighted guide, we're runners, we're friends, but really there's a bond there where we're teammates, like. And it's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool to be able to call, hey, be able to dial up Scott Jurek and be like, hey, teammate, like we're gonna go for a run together now. But and like a lot of out there know a little bit about my story, and like I've gotten to do some pretty epic stuff, and it's in large part due to that team of guides and people around me. And so as we build up to the USABA Marathon National Championships coming up here in December, we're going to have probably 50 plus blind and visually impaired runners out there that are going to, some are running the full marathon, some like myself, just running a half of the marathon, as the relay, but we're all out there, and Scott's been part of this, Scott is part of this, we're all out there, we're just teams of people, and we're tethered together. Like, I mean, like it or not, I mean, Scott, you and I, we're kind of tethered together at the hip, man. Like,
I know.
And it's gonna be, and it's fun. It's pretty amazing. So what we're gonna be doing here at USABA is today we're officially launching a Team Tethered Together campaign, and you can learn all about it. I'm part of it. Scott's part of it. You can go to teamtetheredtogether.com, and it is a fundraiser, and we are looking to, we'd love for you guys to join in and maybe fundraise a little bit, but really what it is we're trying to celebrate this running community. We're trying to celebrate we're trying to celebrate the blind and sighted communities coming together, as runners, as fans, as people that just want to get out there and be active. Because I mean, you guys have heard Scott. I mean, he lights up when he talks about guiding, and I can't, I wouldn't, I wouldn't be out there running if it wasn't for guys like guys like Scott, or my buddies, Zach or Andy or Mike or Will, or any of the people that I run with, so much. So go check it out, teamtetheredtogether.com. We'll be letting you guys know more information about that in the coming weeks. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, teamtetheredtogether.com. That'll be we'll be telling you guys more and more about that as the weeks go on, as we get closer and closer to the California International Marathon and the USABA Marathon National Championships. But we're going to go ahead and check back in. Bill, if we had any other questions roll in, since Katie Ann asked that great question earlier to Scott?
No, that was it. Katie Ann's question was the only one we had.
All right,
Katie, you're in Nashville right now, it seems like. Well, I know it's different hours. I know you'll have this recorded for folks that they're to work hours, that sort of thing. Or totally. Like we're just not getting as many questions. But yeah, to your point, Kyle, too, on the Team Tethered Together, I think for a lot of people it's like, oh, I don't know if I could guide yet, but whether it's giving a donation, supporting financially, there's a lot of individuals who support the championship event, who support a lot of initiatives within the blind visual impaired community, and it is just one piece of the puzzle, but there's a lot of ways to get involved. But giving a little bit of money. I know everyone's been hit up for stuff this past year and a half, and nonprofits have a lot of work to do, but it's just such, again, one of those communities that is getting more attention. People are getting more involved, and fundraising, of course, is a part of it. But there's a lot of great things you can do, and whether you've got skills out there, even if you're somebody like, hey, I don't know about guiding, but hey, I've got great skills to help out with getting the word on social media, or you're somebody who can lend some skills. There's a lot of things to do within the visually impaired community.
100%. All right, Scott. Well, dude, I'm honestly fired up. I can't wait to land in Sacramento and get out on our first run together, man. So because I want to be adventurous, but maybe we go for a little shakeout run or something.
Okay,
the day before the day or two before.
And trust is important.
Yeah. I mean, I trust you. I've known you a while, but no, man. Dude, I'm so excited to finally get to run with you. Don't worry, I don't plan on running a sub 3 hour marathon pace, so we're not going to be going for a 1:30 half marathon. I think you and I we're just going to go out there and we're going to have some fun. We're going to throw some air fives to people. Shoot, we might stop at some aid stations, dance a little bit. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
That's good. I like your spirit.
Yeah, we'll have some fun. So if you guys are gonna be at the California International Marathon, make sure to hit Scott and I up. We love being around people. Guys. And look, just like Scott said, don't be afraid to reach out. There's tons of people out there. The running community is so amazing, and if someone hasn't guided before, don't let that deter you. Don't let that deter them. I've been spending quite a bit of time up here in Victoria, British Columbia, for the past month or so, and I help teach like 4 or 5 people how to guide run and guide run on trails as well. So it's you just got to be willing to get out there and just keep building your team. And the more people you surround yourself with, the bigger and better this blind running and this community becomes, and that's what we're all about here at USABA. So Scott, thank you so much for your time, man. I'll let you. We'll go ahead and let you get back to your family, and give the wife and kids big hugs from the entire USABA family, man.
Oh, thank you. And it's been a pleasure being here. Looking forward to running with you and being out there. And anybody who's going to be out at CIM, make sure USABA has a booth usually at Expo. I don't know how that's working, with the whole COVID stuff going on, but get a chance to stop by that if that's happening. And just again, look up ways to get connected with the VI community and try a little bit of it, because it's contagious, as you can tell. And that's a good 100%. Thing. So the more we can help out there. And again, if you're thinking about, getting out the door, whether it's walking, running, and you just haven't done it as a visually impaired runner, can't say enough about it. So Kyle, keep doing what you're doing, and it's amazing experience, and I hope more people sharing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
On your run, by the way, I know you were being very. I know you got the USA shirt on there, but I know it didn't go as great at the Tokyo Games. But it's an honor to be able to run with you, and people should look up what you've done, because it's pretty incredible. You're not just running out there visually impaired. You're biking, swimming. It's the real deal.
Well, no, I really appreciate that. It's a mutual respect. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Right.
All right.
We'll see you in a couple or a month and a half, right?
Yes, sir. Just over a month away, man. I will. I'll see you in Cali. So
okay, sounds great.
All right, you guys. We'll go ahead and wrap up our Team Tethered Together Day. Thank you again, Scott, for joining us. And guys, we'll put out some info on how to get connected into the guide running community. If you're a blind or visually impaired runner, we'll put out how to get involved in running and all that as well, how to get plugged into the California International Marathon, how to become involved with all of that. And again, check out teamtetheredtogether.com. Bill will of course be dropping some stuff in the comments below as well. But we'll keep an eye on that USABA newsletter, as we'll be pushing out more information around just everything there, as well as all of our social media channels. You guys don't forget tomorrow. We've got a pretty exciting panel lined up for you guys tomorrow afternoon. I believe we're going live at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Actually, gonna be talking about blind soccer. Our USABA blind soccer manager, Jaime Garzin, he's going to be leading a very lively discussion on blind soccer and the exciting stuff that we're doing there. And then, guys, as always, remember, it's not too late to get signed up for the virtual Breakfast with Champions that USABA is hosting on Friday. I believe the virtual piece will be going live at, I think it's like 10:15 a.m. Eastern time on Friday morning. So Bill will drop a link in the comments if you want to find out some more information about Breakfast with Champions. And guys, don't forget, the actual Blind Sports Day is coming up on Saturday. So make sure to get out. We're putting up videos on a daily basis about how to stay active, whether you can get out for a run or a walk or a hike, or if it's just staying in or if you're stuck at your desk working or something, just doing some push-ups or some squats or some planks or something like that. This week is all about just getting moving, being active, and adapting whatever sports you can to your personal situation. So don't forget, engage with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. Use the hashtags, hashtag Blind Sports Week, hashtag Blind Sports Day. Once again, thank you everybody for joining in, watching. Thanks again, Scott, for taking time out of your schedule, and thank you, Bill, for being Mr. Producer Extraordinaire. Always doing the hard work there. We just get to be the intelligent entertainment. Bill is actually the one doing all the hard work back there. So thank you, man. Really appreciate it. But all right, you guys, that's a wrap on. We are over halfway through Blind Sports Week, presented by Healthy Vision Association. We continue tomorrow with the Daily Activity Challenge, and don't forget to mark your calendars for that panel on blind soccer. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.